Ladies and gentlemen, sorry it's been quiet the last couple of days. We've done a full office rebuild, but I'm going to save that information for the end of the video for those of you who are interested. Let's do some WoW stuff. I left a couple of discussions up this week, particularly the iterations and interactions one, which circled around really well. Was so happy to see the response from that. Very calm, level-headed. Not like the legendary discussion, right? Perhaps because I wasn't so emotional, which is a good thing. The footage in the background is from Active Aggression. I'm actually recording this before I've even played the game. So I don't know if it's any good or anything. I can't tell you anything about it because I haven't actually played it yet. But I will be. So, yeah, there you go. Now, one thing I wanted to bring up, which a lot of people didn't get, because there was lots of feedback about, well, there's always some kind of choice, and, you know, it gives you these ideas, and even if it's not mega, and we looked at the Fire Mage, because they had some really outlandish ideas, which is what I wanted to bring up, was that sometimes it can go completely out of hand, and this is why, with triple dipping and multi-dipping, and all these kind of things that I explained in that video. So some of you were like, well, it's not a very big deal. There's still some choice to make there. What I want to clarify here is that the reason I brought this subject up is that the design choices in Legion are fundamentally making sure you can't make any choices. This is a very big difference between having some small choices, which lead to a very minor gap, but the gap still exists, right? Between trying to improve yourself and taking away your ability to even make that choice. That's a huge difference, because that is Blizzard taking control completely away from you as much as they possibly can. In the name of what? Balance, maybe? Something along those lines. I'll just try to make sure nobody goes completely crazy in Legion. Nobody gets to be super powerful or super weak, as the case may be. They can keep the numbers really tight. And we saw something similar to this in early WoD Alpha, where lots of other classes actually had a similar system, and we protested. We were like, no, this sucks. I understand you're trying to do this in the name of balance, but you're taking fun away in order to get there. And taking fun away is never the solution, because people are just going to be pissed off. I had fun in the past, now I'm not having fun. And that's when people start re-rolling and all that kind of stuff. So to highlight this, I want to again stick with the Fire Mage, but this is something, again, that is fundamental across most of the specs so far in Legion. So let me give you this example of why this is kind of sinister keeps popping into my head. Although it kind of feels like the wrong word, but it's the one that I keep coming up with when looking for a word to describe it. It does feel somewhat sinister. Let's look at the new spell that Fire Mage is again. It's called Phoenix Flames, right? So most of you, even if you've never played one, will understand that a Fire Mage works very simply. 2 crits in a row gets you a free Pyroblast. Right? Most of you know that. If a Fire Mage gets a couple of crits, they get a free Pyroblast. So what they've done in Legion is made sure that you can't really back-to-back that, which some Fire Mages were doing, or most good Fire Mages were doing, by stacking their heating up procs. This is the warning the game gives you that you had a critical strike, and if you get another one, you're going to get the Pyroblast. And the idea of this system is that you have a spell called Infernal Blast. It's a very weak spell, but it's a guaranteed crit, so it's like the trigger. Yeah, you get this warning that you're about to get a Pyroblast if you crit the next spell, and they give you a spell that's kind of weak sauce to trigger the Pyroblast and get you a mighty spell at the end of it, right? That's the general idea. So in Legion, they're bringing in a new spell, Phoenix Flames, which is curious in its design. Phoenix Flames is a spell that has a set recharge time, okay? So nothing different that you haven't seen in the past. You've seen it with Hand of Gul'dan, you've seen it with all kinds of other stuff. It has any cooldown in the game. It has a set recharge time and can stack up to 3 times. Now, the really curious thing about Phoenix Flames is it does not have its own button. Phoenix Flames hits harder than Pyroblast. It's your hardest hitting spell. It does not interact with the ability of the fundamental mechanic of Fire Mages, which is allowing you to chain crits and then get a Pyroblast. The way they've designed it is very, very specifically so you can't really abuse it. Because if I tell somebody, look, you get this thing that recharges and hits really hard, a good player instantly says, right then, so I want to abuse that when I'm at my most powerful, with trinket procs and all this kind of stuff that's going on that I can't control, the RNG elements, and then try and abuse it and weave it into there, and then I'll get slightly better results than the guy who doesn't do that. I won't get absurd results in most cases. If you give 2 people similar gear, or equal gear even, one guy firing it off randomly will get slightly less results than the guy who only uses it with trinket procs, right? Which is what we've seen with plenty of classes, especially in Walls of Draenor, especially. Windwalkers were doing that with Tiger Eye Brew and Tiger Strikes and all that kind of stuff. So, the way it works in Legion with Phoenix Flames is it actually replaces your Pyroblast, right? It's on the same button. This is a very, very intentional decision. Very intentional. Why, you might ask? If your Pyroblast procs, you cannot fire that Pyroblast without making and guaranteeing and being forced to cast the Phoenix Flames first. it simply won't work. Because Pyroblast no longer exists on your spell bar. Phoenix Flames is there instead. If it's recharged while you've been firing off fireballs, and you've got a critical strike, and then you've Inferno Blasted, so you've got a Pyroblast proc, you can't use that proc. The game says, no, you can't. You have to use your Phoenix Flames first. If you have a charge of it, you have to use it. This is Blizzard intentionally making sure that people don't stack up Phoenix Flames for chains outside of being very, very specific, like the beginning of a fight, because obviously Phoenix Flames can crit. You want to use that with Combustion, right? You want to use that with Combustion, which boosts your mastery and all that kind of stuff. You want to be putting as many Phoenix Flames into there. You're not too worried about chaining Pyros in comparison to the much more hard-hitting Phoenix Flames. So what Blizzard's done is said, we don't want you to be doing anything outside of these guaranteed windows, which we can control to a certain extent. We can control that. Outside of that, we really don't want you trying to abuse the fact that we've given you this hard-hitting spell. And the way we're going to do that is make sure that you have to use it. Even if you want to or not, you have to use it if you want to use the core fundamental mechanics of your class. So there, you start to see that this system is actually very, very specifically designed in order to make sure you don't have that choice. It actually takes the choice away from you. That's very, very, very different to what we've seen in the past, where they're like, no, you can't do that. We don't want you to do that. We will have this on a set recharge time. You have a cooldown which activates 3 of them, which you'll obviously want to use with things like Combustion and Trinkets. That's fine. We can control that. In fact, we've given you this really heavy-hitting spell, but we know exactly how many times you will be able to cast that spell throughout a fight. We have that locked down because it's on a very specific timer. So you won't be able to do anything different. So this is the design philosophy in Legion that is very different to anything we've seen in the past. It is a design that is intentionally designed so you can't make those kind of choices. Which is not a big deal. If one guy, this is the curious thing about it, is if they did put it on a separate button, the only people who would really benefit from that are the people who had taken it to the stage where they were tracking things, keeping an eye out on trinket procs and weapon enchants. All this kind of stuff. They were keeping an eye on that and making use of it. It wouldn't have even changed the gameplay that much. All you're talking about is allowing it to get to like near 3, look so you're not wasting them, and then see if you've got any trinkets or anything up and then using it. That's all we're talking about. Nothing mega, but the design in Legion is designed to make sure you don't do that. That you can't do that. That you must waste these things. So that's why it's very, very different to what we've seen in the past. Now, some people have said, what if the depth and stuff is going to come from class bonuses and set bonuses and all that kind of stuff? I would say not. As much as I would like that to happen, that creates some really weird things going on. One, that the interesting part of your spec doesn't occur until you get set bonuses, which aren't available to everybody. Now, some people say that happens in WoD. WoD changes your gameplay, but it doesn't change the fundamental core mechanics of your class, really. For some would argue it gets close, but not to the point that we're comparing it to, you know, the heating up mechanics or Bandit's Guile or any of the interesting things we've talked about in the past. It simply maybe increases your chance. I could certainly see set bonuses in the example we've used here that make your Phoenix Flames recharge faster. But given what I've seen so far, not at least until the last tier when they kind of don't give a fuck anymore, like we're in now in WoD, right? You know, in WoD, a lot of set bonuses and procs are just kind of just outlandishly stupid. You mix in legendary rings in there and people are crushing mythic bosses in like 30 seconds or whatever. It's fucking daft in the last tier. Maybe then I can see them introducing some sort of system which means that they could proc randomly, but not until then, because it goes against what their seeming philosophy is right now, which is making sure you don't have that kind of variance going on. But they're not. They're certainly not against adding really RNG elements in, but in terms of adding player depth or really core functionality via class and set bonuses, no. It was really strange to see that they made useless spells and clearly balanced them around the idea that you were going to get very powerful PvE set bonuses to make these spells worthwhile, which is what we saw in WoD. We saw some spells that were just super shit for various classes, yet when they got their set bonuses, oh, right, it's super shit at its base level because you've given us a set bonuses that doesn't make it super shit. Now I understand. That's a long way from adding, like, real core depth to extending the life and interest in your class. So I think we need to really take a stand here and just sort of understand the issue here. The issue isn't that there's less choice to make. The issue really is that they're designing things so you don't have a choice to make. And trying to take away the ability to make that choice. Now, this is so far in Legion, so, you know, this could change on a dime. There's no doubt about that. They might even rethink it. This may be a line they were going down, maybe feedback like mine. I mean, we've seen this video circled around everywhere, is maybe they'll change their mind on it. But right now, you really need to understand that the philosophy is you don't have a choice. And they seem to be trying to make it that way. We can look at the Survival Hunter and the seemingly unending ability of the game to control what you do with the mongoose bite stacking. For any of you who watched that the initial ideas and systems they threw in there were purely game determined. You had no role whatsoever to play in the DPS outcome of your class. None at all. It was entirely down to whether or not your mongoose bite procs, which is nothing to do with you. At all. And that's something they can average out over the course of a fight. So, and it certainly isn't a moment of fucking glory. It's like, wow, this is lucky. Aren't I a skilled player? Look how lucky I got. I'm so fucking awesome. So, yeah, I think that's a big distinction to be made there, is you need to understand that they are taking away and trying to block you from make choices. Seemingly, hopefully it'll change. In regards to the non-WoW info then, yeah, it's been quiet the last couple of days because we did a full office rebuild. We've had a lot. I've spent such a fucking crazy amount of money over the last 12 days in preparing for our upcoming 2016 stuff. It's been pretty crazy. So we've had a lot of stuff arrive. We've had all our studio lights arrive, which is why we had to do an office rebuild, because we, as you probably know if you ever watch Stream Week, which plenty of you do, I couldn't physically have lights in my current office. My old office could, but of course that's been given up to children now, which is why we're hoping to move out of this building soon-ish. I'll let you know further on that. But we've had this equipment arrive. We've ordered our new camera. For you nerds out there, it's the AX25 from Canon. I believe it's the AX or HX. I think, or the XA. I think it's the XA. XA25. That's currently on my Google list. Yeah, the XA25. It came down to a couple of choices. But this one hit like every sort of functionality I wanted. Really everything that I was after in a professional HD camcorder, so we could go out and film something that didn't look like shite. That we could also double as a stream camera, so we could turn that quality up as well. If we're not out shooting, I can just put it on a tripod. We can use it for the stream camera. We can use it for drama time. The lighting system is so much better. The green screen actually looks like it's perfect now. I know I don't want to shit on anyone's cornflakes for the low techness that we are known for, but it does seem to have cleared that issue up immensely. At the sacrifice of Ghosty's workspace. Sorry, bro. I told him this is going to happen. It's unfortunate. I lost desks and stuff as well. So it's been a pretty hectic couple of days. The schedule coming up is Drama Friday tomorrow. A couple of videos coming out over the weekend, which I'm hopefully going to get finished up tomorrow before Drama Friday. Hopefully. We've obviously put a lot more time and effort into graphics and stuff into the videos. And then on Monday, hopefully, if the camera arrives tomorrow, it was on a 5 to 8 day delivery. So it could come tomorrow. If not, it's going to be like probably Wednesday next week. Because if it's not on the 5th day, it's bound to be the 8th. So it could be on the Wednesday next week. And to have Stream Week next week, because as you probably are aware from my previous videos, on the 3rd week of January is when we're filming the Legacy of the Warlock. We're going out and filming with all this new equipment. Hopefully I won't wreck it. And got a crew coming in. So I have to organise everybody for that. It's getting really hectic. It's getting so hectic. Getting everybody involved in that kind of stuff. So I've got that set up for like the 3rd week in January, I hope. It's all going to work out really well, and we'll get to shoot some good stuff. Alright guys, so pay attention to Twitter if you want to see the pictures of my new office layout, if you care about it. It's a tiny room. Someone said do a tour video. This room is like so small. It's like 2 meters across, if that. With a 5 it's a 5 by 2 in terms of meters in British pounds. So yeah, it's not exactly something you could do a tour of by any means. It's a photograph at best. So it's pretty cool. Alright guys, thank you so much for listening. Have a great day wherever you are. I'll see you again. Bye bye.